Okay, we officially have 6 new cast members of the new Harry Potter show who have been announced. John Lithgow as Dumbledore, Janet McTeer as McGonagall, Luke Thallon as Quirrell, Paapa Essiedu as Snape, Nick Frost as Hagrid, and Paul Whitehouse as Filch. So let's talk about them. But quickly, before we do, I want to say one thing. Maybe don't watch this video, or any videos like this. I have seen this happen with the Star Wars fandom. I've seen it happen with the Lord of the Rings fandom, with the Doctor Who fandom. People are so keen for news on a project that they're excited about, they watch people like me give reactions and opinions. But those reactions and opinions nearly always perform better when they are negative. You know, you get those clickbait titles of ruining something nostalgic and beloved. And they always perform better than the positives. This might be good titles and thumbnails. Lord knows, I have seen that in my videos. Anything remotely negative in the title and thumbnail performs better than anything positive. And so because of that, you see so many people like me getting so angry about a project before it's even started that people start to form opinions on things that don't even exist yet before even giving them a chance. Because videos like this one will tell you something is bad or wrong as a choice when you haven't even seen how it pans out. And to me, that kind of feels like wanting a bike for Christmas, and then you see your parents come home from the shops with a shopping bag for a shop that doesn't sell bikes, and you decide Christmas is ruined. But there's still 3 weeks to Christmas, and you don't actually know what they've got you. And actually, just because they didn't give you exactly what you thought you wanted, they might still give you something great. A trip to Disneyland, a complete set of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers action figures whose heads swivel and flip around and change from the normal head to the helmet Power Ranger head. That was my favorite Christmas gift I ever got. Just don't let these people telling you everything is ruined make you angry or upset about something that you were excited about before it's even started. Anyway, with that said, there are some things I don't like about these casting decisions. There are some things I do like as well. I will tell you about all of those things. Just know I'm still going to go into the show with an open mind, which means I am open to loving some of the things that on the surface right now I think seem questionable, as well as being open to criticizing things which right now I think sound quite good. And so if you do watch this video and others like it, I beg a few things of you. Be open-minded. Like, you might already have thoughts, that's fine, but you don't have to live and die by them. Thoughts and feelings can change and evolve. Some of mine already have, and I will talk about it in this video. Your thoughts don't have to change, but at least be open to the fact that they could. Be respectful. You know, more and more everything is getting tribal, right? Disagreeing with somebody about a casting choice for the Harry Potter show does not make them your enemy. You don't need to start insulting them, calling them out, just chill out a little bit. And thirdly, remember, these are real people just trying to do their job. So just think about the person on the other side of whatever comment you want to make. Okay, so we're going to jump into the castings with John Lithgow as Dumbledore. I already made a whole video on this when it was first confirmed by Lithgow himself, so I won't focus on this part too much. There is a link down in the description if you want to watch the full video breaking down this whole announcement. The long and short of it is that I think this is a fantastic casting decision. Like, I know Lithgow is American, but we've heard him do an American accent as Churchill in The Crown, and he is fantastic. He's also done comedy before, which means I'm fairly confident he will be able to handle Dumbledore's more whimsical side. You know, walking around Hogwarts offering students sherbet lemons, rambling about jam flavors, talking about his love for knitting patterns. I think Lithgow can nail that. I'm also confident we'll see him nail the other side of Dumbledore too. The side of the most gifted wizard alive. The only wizard that Voldemort fears. We need that wizard to be confident and powerful, but kind of in an understated way. You know, Lithgow has done plenty of Shakespeare. He was amazing as the Trinity Killer in Dexter. And again, as Churchill, we saw him as this commanding presence. Dumbledore doesn't need to shout or wave his wand emphatically. He just has this aura that exudes power, and I think Lithgow will do it perfectly. Plus, having touched on his stage experience, this is something that will probably come up a few times in this video, right? Despite the nature of magic and the scale of the war between good and bad in Harry Potter, so many powerful scenes from this series happen in just a room with characters talking. You know, almost every book ends with Harry debriefing with Dumbledore. We have the scene in the Shrieking Shack at the end of The Prisoner of Azkaban, where Harry learns the truth about his parents. The Goblet of Fire, when Barty Crouch Jr. reveals everything that's happened across the year behind the scenes. All the scenes in The Half-Blood Prince where Harry and Dumbledore are working through Voldemort's backstory, piecing clues together to uncover the truth about the Horcruxes. These scenes aren't going to be huge, epic extravaganzas. They're going to live and die by the dialogue written, the director's ability to make these smaller moments shine, and the performances of the actors. And I think stage experience will allow an actor to thrive in these moments. And Lithgow certainly has the chops for it. So McGonagall has two sides. Her first side is that she's stern but fair. She's strict and punishes people when they deserve it. And she runs a tight ship, right? She makes sure that Hogwarts and all of its students are doing exactly what they should be doing. And that side of McGonagall seems perfect for McTeer. If you've seen her in Ozark, where she is this sort of lawyer come enforcer for the cartel, she's great. She is commanding, you know she means business, and she gets stuff done. Truly, if she wants you to feel intimidated, you do. Which is perfect, the deputy headmistress of Hogwarts. But sometimes we also see this softer side to McGonagall. You know, how she's sensitive with Harry and Ron when she tells them Hermione has been petrified. How she's understanding with Harry during his clashes with Umbridge. And how she reacts to Harry when he returns to Hogwarts during the Deathly Hallows before the final battle. And McGonagall being so strict and stern makes these moments where she's softer even more emotionally poignant. And we have seen the exact same thing from McTeer in Ozark when this badass cartel enforcer turns out to have a daughter. She's a mother and we see her maternal side. We see how much she cares. Truly, I love this casting and I am very excited about it. I'm going to be completely honest, I haven't seen any of Luke Thallon's work, but I have read about his theatre work, and by the sounds of it, he is very gifted on stage. And I've already said how important I think that is. I am a touch surprised by how young he is, like he's not even 30 yet, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. A young wizard traveling to Albania to further his magical education and is seduced and manipulated by Voldemort. Him being young and naive and easy to manipulate feels like a great angle to his story, so I'm definitely here for that. So I was talking to my friends Flick and Em about this recently, and Flick mentioned that this project being a 10-year project means it's a huge ask for actors to sign on to it. Like to us as Harry Potter fans, being paid to attach ourselves for 10 years to a project like this sounds amazing, right? But to A-list actors or up-and-coming actors, the amount of projects that this might make you say no to because of scheduling is a huge risk to their career. Like imagine if this show does badly, or just does okay enough to not be cancelled, but it's not like fun to work on and nobody is that excited by it, and you are committed to 10 years. Your career, where you were a hotshot 29-year-old up-and-comer, you finish in your 40s. And so because of your 10-year contract with the Harry Potter show, which has to come first, maybe it causes scheduling conflicts. And so for the hottest decade of your career, maybe you've had to say no to Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, or Warhammer with Henry Cavill, or Christopher Nolan's latest project, or the latest reboot of the Power Rangers series. And besides that, what if you're not based in London? You are committing to being away from your family regularly for a decade, for 10 years. That is a big ask for anyone. Now, I know it's not the case for Thallon, since Quirrell will probably only be in the first season. Maybe he'll be in the odd flashback later on, but it's not as much of a commitment for him. So my point actually is that for Thallon, for an up-and-comer like him, transitioning from stage to screen, this actually feels like the perfect role. 1 year to really put yourself out there on one of the world's biggest stages and show what you can do. It's very exciting. I'm very excited to see what he can do, and I know I've been very positive so far, but I said there were some things I didn't love. We'll get to one of those now. Nick Frost is a good actor. He's a very good comedy actor. Hot Fuzz is one of my absolute favourite films of all time. So Nick Frost, as a comedy actor, in a comedy film in which nothing is taken too seriously, fantastic. But Nick Frost as a comic relief character in a show or film that has serious tones and casual tones and isn't always a comedy, I don't love him in those roles. Comic relief in those not exclusively comedy projects shouldn't pull you out of the immersion of the world or the moments, right? But Nick Frost, I find, kind of plays those characters like caricatures a little bit. And for me, it pulls you out of the moment. It pulls you out of the world. When he plays Santa in Doctor Who, for example, it didn't work for me. You know, you got Jenna Coleman as Clara in the TARDIS. They're trying to build this world, and Nick Frost's performance as Santa just pulled me out of the immersion. Now look, I am happy to be proven wrong. I just kind of feel off the bat that Nick Frost is better suited to more over-the-top, absurd comedy, which doesn't take itself too seriously. He's basically great when you feel like he has just turned up to set and is just messing around, having a laugh. But that's not exactly what Hagrid is, or what Hagrid's role in Harry Potter is. Oh, you gotta say though, I'm very interested to see if he still does that West Country accent. Because I know Hagrid's dialogue is spelt phonetically in the books, but is it ever specified that it's West Country? Could he be like from Yorkshire or like Cockney or something? I guess we'll see. What I will say though, is that his announcement on Instagram was so heartfelt and lovely. I want him to be really good, just for that. Now, I have to be honest, I haven't seen very much Paul Whitehouse, and by that I mean I have seen nothing he's been in ever. But again, chatting to my friends Flick and Em about this recently, we all basically said we loved how under the radar this announcement went. Like, all the other castings were rumoured and leaked and spread about for weeks or months before the announcement came. But this one, Paul Whitehouse as Filch, came out of nowhere. And I want more announcements to come without 1,000 Twitter accounts and gossip sites and Reddit threads leaking them first. Catch me off guard. When the Voldemort announcement comes, I want to be caught off guard. I want to be surprised. Like, oh my gosh, this is an official announcement. It's definitely happening. And no one spoke about it. Anyway, from my understanding about Whitehouse, he's a very funny chap. He has a history in sketch shows, which suggests he's good at character comedy. His dialogue and timing are probably really sharp. And if necessary with Filch, I imagine he's got some great slapstick comedy skills in there too. So when Filch is comic relief, I think he's going to be great. But Filch isn't always comic relief. In fact, in the first 1 or 2 books, he's actually quite scary. When Harry is 11 years old sneaking through the corridors, there is almost nothing worse to him than the idea of being caught by Filch. Filch who reveres punishment, who wants to hang the Weasley twins by their ears from the ceiling. Like, I will never forget playing the first Harry Potter video game, sneaking through the restricted section of the library, trying not to get caught by Filch. Those are some really high tension moments, because Filch is actually scary to begin with. As the stakes raise, and actually it's Voldemort who's the main threat, the big thing Harry is combating is the end of the world, suddenly Filch becomes comic relief. He becomes a little bit pathetic, especially when we learn that he's a squib. And that's when I think Whitehouse is going to be great. But in the first 1 or 2, I still think he needs to be a reasonable source of fear and tension for Harry. So overall, I'm looking forward to seeing how they bring that about. Definitely think he'll be great on the funnier side of Filch. I hope they get at the other side right too. Here we go then. This one has stirred up a lot of controversy. So I made a video about Paapa Essiedu when this was just a rumour, saying that I liked it. Saying that Paapa has clearly got great experience both on screen in leading roles and on stage, both of which I think are very important. I also think that whoever was going to be cast as Snape, they were going to be compared to Alan Rickman, who was probably, alongside Maggie Smith as McGonagall, the most iconic portrayal and the most loved portrayal of any of the Harry Potter characters, particularly the adults, the professors. I like that Paapa is so different that people won't just be comparing him to Alan Rickman. I know a lot of people wanted Adam Driver. First of all, I think he's too A-lister. I don't think he'd commit to that scheduling issue I talked about before. Secondly, I think he's too old. Thirdly, I think he's too close to Alan Rickman, and people would always compare them. Now, we have to talk about the race thing. So in my previous video, I mentioned that Snape's race or skin color is barely mentioned, which is not quite right. The book mentions at one point his skin being the color of milk, and at another point mentions him going sheet white. I also mentioned that his whiteness isn't terribly central to his story arc, and commenters on that video pointed out that he joins a hate group, which is an allegory for historically racist organizations like the KKK or the Nazis, and that Snape uses the term mudblood, which is an allegory for a racial slur, and that giving that role to a man of color feels odd. There were also some points being made about how the Marauders bullying Snape now kind of looks like racially charged bullying, which is an angle I hadn't thought about. So I understand the feedback I got on that video, and clearly I had overlooked some things about Snape in the source material that this might impact. And I will say, I appreciate how thoughtfully some of those points were made. You know, simply saying Snape is white, so he has to be white, they ruined it, doesn't cut it for me. Okay, this is a fictional story about fictional wizards in a fictional world. Snape is a fictional character, and just because somebody wrote the word pale next to his name in a book doesn't mean his character can't be portrayed by a man of color. His emotions when he finds out Lily will be hunted because of the prophecy, his character arc when we see the prince's tale and find out he killed Dumbledore only on Dumbledore's orders and he's been protecting Harry, his anger towards Harry or his smugness when Slytherin wins Quidditch, none of that really changes based on him not being white. So just saying he was white in the books, he has to be white on screen, doesn't fly. But talking about the subtext and how that changes is thoughtful and reasoned. And it feels like a conversation that can be had in good faith. Now, my opinion on Paapa's acting abilities has not changed. I think he is more than good enough to play this role. I also saw a great video from a creator named ProfJW on Instagram about Snape being black, particularly from the angle of the Marauders and the bullying and racism in the wizarding world. Now, ProfJW is a professor who breaks down literature for a living, and he is a man of color, so his perspective on racism in literature, much more important on the matter than mine. Now, he makes some great points in the video, which I've linked down in the description, so please go and watch that. And another thing that I thought about is that I have seen so much fan art and so much fan fiction in which Harry is half Indian, and I love it. And so many people in the fandom seem to love it. Which means that Lily could be a white, red-headed lady, and James might be an Indian man, and the Marauders could be really diverse, which would be great. And again, that might impact things differently than if they were just 4 white men bullying a man of colour. We don't know how that's going to go yet. And look, I know people will get angry that I said that, but it's not just Snape they could change to a person of colour, they could also make the Marauders more diverse. And so some people in response would say, what if they changed Kingsley or Dean into a white person? So I read recently that in Harry Potter, of the 100 most named characters, so the characters with the biggest roles in the book, there are more non-human characters in that top 100 than there are non-white characters. Which means, if you take one of the very, very few non-white characters with a semi-significant role, and you make them white, that will impact representation far more than if you took one of the many, many white characters and made them any other race or ethnicity. My point is, I think Paapa is a fantastic actor. From everything I've seen of him, everything I've read about his performances, I think he can do Snape very, very well. And if you are worried about how this man of colour will impact the plot, wait and see how the plot unfolds to see if it is actually impacted in a way that concerns you. Because it might not be. They might end up doing something that you absolutely love. Equally, Paapa or anybody I've mentioned in this video might be bad. They might portray their characters in a really jarring or disconnecting way. The writers might change core aspects of characters' personalities, and if that happens, I will constructively be criticizing the show. And I am so willing to change my mind on things and be wrong. Speaking of constructively criticizing things, I did criticize Michael Gambon's portrayal of Dumbledore and also Richard Harris's portrayal of Dumbledore a little bit in this video, where I talk about what's important to the character of Dumbledore and what I hope Lithgow will bring to the role. So you might want to watch that video next.